Hey everyone, if you like our content and want to help us grow our channel, you can support us on Patreon, where you also get exclusive behind the scenes content. Otherwise, follow us on these social media platforms where you can help support us. A little goes a long way. Enjoy the rest of this video. Good evening everyone, welcome back to another Nonocat review. Today we're taking a look at something quite special. So this is a one-of-a-kind new system, and this is the E&L T191 10-year anniversary model. Let's check it out. Alright, so a little bit of history about this gun. This is the T191 that is based on the current Chinese service rifle, the QBZ-191, which uses the same caliber as the previous service rifle, the Type 95 or QBZ-95, and uses a 5.8mm projectile. So usually I wouldn't cover unboxing, but as you guys can see, it looks really good, and so we're just going to cover it really quickly because this is the 10-year anniversary model. Let's unbox it and check it out. E&L slogan, legendary perfection. Up, you actually see the 10th year anniversary coin. So this coin only comes with the anniversary models and actually features a serial number that's matching with the gun as well. Now on the inside we have the T191, and we have the certificate of quality certificate. Basically lists its muzzle velocity and the joules that it's firing at. Then we have the instruction menu, version 1, and a very nice E&L patch. And looks like some spare parts. So it looks like they give us a set of O-rings and a set of springs. And I believe there is a tool for the CO2 canister. That's the magazine itself. And the gun. So here we have the T191. Now the T191 is a replica of the QBZ-191 that was actually only adopted by the Chinese Army in 2019. So it's fairly surprising to see an Airsoft replica of it this soon. So you know, E&L has been promising gas blowback rifles over the years, actually over the span of 10 years, with their first announcement of the M4 gas blowback in 2014.
New stuff from E&L, gas blowback, AR. Runs on CO2 or green gas.
They also promised a QBZ-95 after they created the paintball version for military training, but unfortunately they have failed to deliver after promising for the last 10 years.
So here, because it's a secret prototype, we cannot take it out and say. This one is the Type 92 pistol. It's also being adopted.
So the E&L T191 has got to be the first gas blowback rifle ever released by E&L for the Airsoft market, I guess. So despite being E&L's first gas blowback system, they've once again surprised us by giving us something that's new. So this particular system is a dual-powered system, and it runs on HPA or CO2. So with the CO2, it runs on 33 gram CO2 that goes into the buttstock. Otherwise, you could run HPA, and the connection is actually within the grip. So you could do this simultaneously, but not at the same time, without having to change any parts on the gun itself. So it does run a paintball HPA system as opposed to an Airsoft system. You know what? Let's delve into the details and take a further look into the externals. I just want to say a special thanks to Yoo-Hoo for providing this QBZ-191 cleaning mat specific for it. It's really cool, so once again, thank you. But let's begin with the externals. So first off, everything that is meant to be steel on the real one is steel on this replica. So it's extremely impressive. And we'll just start off with the flash hider, the muzzle device here. It is steel. The barrel itself is steel, and I believe it's a one piece. The bayonet lug, the gas block system, the handguard pin, the front side post or the backup side itself. The whole thing is made of steel. Down to the receiver pin is steel. Although the receiver itself is aluminum, the bolt carrier itself is steel. The magazine catch lever is steel. The trigger itself is steel. The selector is steel. The rear sight, just pull that out. So the rear sight itself is steel as well. Not to forget, the bolt release itself. Now all the steel parts on the 191 does feature a blued finishing, very similar to their E&L AKs, except for the bolt itself. Now we'll get into that later. But the handguard itself, the pistol grip, as well as the stock does feature quite the nice nylon polymer. Now onto the magazine. The E&L magazine does feel like an Arcturus magazine, which has somewhat like a cheap polymer construction to it. But that being said, the base plate is made of steel, which is quite interesting. I believe that's where all the cost is. But the magazine itself, despite being a GBB RMAG, does hold 120 rounds and is pretty much an AG magazine if you look at it. Now it does feature a bolt lock feature, so essentially when you run out of rounds, that pushes this lever which engages the bolt lock. Now, despite being 120 rounds, you could switch it to 30 rounds, and I'm just going to show you how to do that. So, to do that, we need to remove the base plate, and we just push this lever here. Now, the magazine is fairly new, and you might need a tool to assist this. So, we basically need to pull that out. And once you remove the base plate, you could push the insert, and that reviews the lever itself. Now to activate it to 30 rounds, you push down this lever and you slide it across, and vice versa. So the receiver on the 191 is actually made of die-cast aluminum, but does have quite a nice grayish finish to it. That being said, the coating itself is not very durable, as we did see quite a bit of scratches and wear marks on it, despite light usage. Now the fitment on the receiver itself is quite loose, and you can see that discernible wobble to it. But that being said, it does mean that the receiver can be easily removed without the use of tools. So the 191 weighs at about 3.15 kilograms, and the weight balance is quite reminiscent to a 14.5-inch mil-spec AR, with the front end being heavier due to the barrel. Now the selector itself follows an AK select fire pattern, where semi-automatic is at the lowest position, and at a 45 would be fully automatic fire. This is extremely convenient as to avoid accidentally going into fully automatic when you're quickly switching from safe to semi. Now the selection transition is extremely smooth, and it's very tactile with discernible clicks. Now the trigger pull is extremely interesting on the 191 because the replica doesn't actually have a hammer. So despite pulling the bolt, we won't be able to test it for trigger pull or trigger reset. So this could only happen if there's pressure through the system. So let's take a look internally to see why. Now to disassemble the 191, we first have to remove the two takedown pins. So just these two. And that would basically split it apart. Now the bolt carrier is held by the upper receiver, so we'll just slide it out, separating that. And this is your bolt carrier. We'll just remove the nozzle return spring. And this is the nozzle responsible. And there's a little washer. And essentially, that is your entire bolt carrier system. So just looking at the bolt carrier of the 191, you can see that the finishing is different. That is because it actually features a diamond-like carbon coating, otherwise known as TAC coating. So what that stands for is tetrahedral amorphous carbon coating, and basically provides it with ultra low friction, super high hardness, and excellent wear protection. So it's amazing to see something like this in an airsoft gun specifically. Now, just looking at the bolt carrier itself, it is discernibly smaller and different to the real counterpart, and it's more comparable to the half-size carrier found in the QBZ-03. Now this change was mostly due to the gas reservoir design that had to be situated in the back of the gun itself in the buffer tube, so they had to remove the buffer system and the buffer spring system. So this meant the bolt travel could not be full length and had to be shortened. That being said, I did not understand why they couldn't replicate the short stroke piston, so this was quite disappointing as far as Realism goes. Now to access the short stroke piston, this assembly is exactly like the real one. So with the gas adjustment block, you pull it upwards, you turn left or right all the way, and that removes it. Technically, a short stroke piston should come out at this point, but just to show you there's a lack of it, basically use a flat head to unscrew this screw here, and then you could remove the entire handguard, thus revealing the lack of the piston. So the bolt carrier itself weighs about 213 grams. Now with the parts itself, that comes to about 234 grams, which is a little bit heavier than your GHK M4 bolt carrier, but hold that thought because we haven't talked about weighted buffers yet. So the 191 bolt itself is the only recoiling mass in the system, so you know, what the weight is what you get. But with an M4, so we have a standard GHK bolt here, GHK M4 bolt. So the bolt itself weighs at 224 grams, but the recoiling mass also includes the buffer itself. So we could add a weighted buffer, which brings it up to about 307 grams, which is a lot heavier than your 191's you know, recoiling mass. Now, even with that in mind, we have a GHK AK bolt without its piston. It is still about the same weight as your T191. So, you know, to gauge the recoil, this is about the same recoil as a GHK version 2 without its piston. Now for the lower, we first remove the recoil spring. Before we could remove the recoil guide, we first have to remove the locking ring nuts here. Now this part is partially responsible for the semi-auto function of the replica. So to remove that, we flick it in fully automatic. So when we hold that down and we press down that lever that's here, we could just remove that locking ring. And your recoil guide would just slide backwards and out from that. So after that, you could remove the nozzle plunger, which is this here. Now if you look inside it, there is a silver rod. This is responsible for plugging in the air coming out from this nozzle here, from this system here. So basically that shuts it. So how the system works is fairly simple. We have the compression chamber here, and that lets air out here. Now the plunger nozzle is to prevent that air from escaping. So every time when you fire it, it pushes forward to let air out through the nozzle here. That air is then directed into the nozzle within the bolt carrier group. And there's a little nozzle valve inside, just like a standard GBB. So when the air is let out through the barrel itself, that nozzle valve shuts and basically directs all that air back on the bolt carrier, which slams this shut, essentially stopping all air from going out again. So then the locking ring, which follows the plunger itself, does move backwards. And a little tab at the bottom does catch on the sear, preventing it from moving forward again, thus stopping the cycle. So essentially, just to show you guys how the system works on select fire, on semi-automatic, whenever you pull the trigger, the sear is free to pivot. And basically it will pivot back to its position to stop it on a single fire. And your disconnector will basically disengage that as well. Now on fully automatic, whenever you pull the trigger, that sear stays on a flat position, which allows the locking ring to freely move. Well, since we have everything disassembled here, so we're just going to show you that basically everything internally is steel as well. So this includes the hop-up chamber itself, and of course the bolt carrier. Now with the washer that's on the back of the nozzle, that's steel. The plunger that we had is made of steel, although the nozzle in front is aluminum. The recoil guide is steel. The locking ring itself is steel as well. Now for the internals, the compression chamber nozzle is steel. The disconnector lever is steel. I'm not quite sure what that piece is. I believe it just stops the mag from over traveling. That is steel. The pins aren't steel, but the sear itself is steel. So is this other lever here. And of course the trigger itself. So it's quite impressive to see that even the internals are all full steel. So I assume that they chose probably some sort of aluminum for the pins so that it would be more free-flowing. So that's pretty interesting to see. So the 191 does have a very straightforward and simple mechanical construction and design. The parts are few, so that's always a good thing. So now that we have the construction out of the way, let's take a look at the focus of the core of Airsoft, its performance. So first off, we're going to test for trigger response and trigger reset. So in order for us to test the trigger reset or trigger pull, we do need to pressurize the system. As you guys can see, it feels like nothing. Doesn't matter if we cock it. So essentially, we needed to pressurize the system so it reaches to this position here, which basically engages the locking ring. And with that, we could pull that trigger. So the 191 actually uses a paintball system. It requires about 600 to 800 psi for it to work. So we can't run an Airsoft regulator or standard Airsoft HPA line. So here instead we have a paintball line instead with a release valve. So let's connect the gun and see how it works. So the connection, the QD connection, sits underneath the gun. And once you plug that in, it's actually really hard to remove that with pressure. But to turn that on, we just tighten that valve down. But you guys can hear that click on the rifle to say that the locking ring has now engaged with the trigger. So the trigger pull is reasonably smooth, though on the heavier side. And the reset, although, is extremely crisp. I'll compare it to a VFC Glock trigger pull, but just a little bit heavier. And this highly reflects a realistic mechanical pull, and I find it absolutely pleasing to use. So on rapid fire on semi, it wasn't a problem for me, though I could see some other people struggling with the heavier pull. Now the bolt travel on the 191 is actually half travel and doesn't go all the way. But it does give you quite a snappy and responsive cycle. Now the recoil itself, however, is a bit lackluster. So it does kick a lot less than a, let's say, GHK AK with a steel bolt. So on the other hand, the consistent gas output does give you quite a satisfying kick to it, especially on fully automatic. Now, when I did mention that even my GHK 74U kicks harder, we have the 74U with a steel bolt and a steel piston rod. This mass here is recoiling at about 421 grams, which is almost double that of your T191s. So, it is quite lackluster on the 191 because of the recoiling mass on the system. So when you're using HPA on the 191, it actually shares the same chamber as the CO2, which means there's a gas reservoir inside the buffer tube, and it actually holds pressure. Now, before we could remove the line, you actually have to basically shut the pressure from the line before removing it. Otherwise, you can't really actually remove that. The valve is actually quite hard to get into that little tiny grip there. But once you remove it, there's actually a lot of pressure inside the gun. So you could actually fire quite a few rounds. So that's about 27 rounds, so it actually holds a lot of gas. Now the other option besides shooting it is to actually release it from the pressure release valve that E&L included on the bottom of the buffer tube. So if you press that, that basically releases all the pressure. And you need to do this every time before you store away the gun or if you disassemble it. So once that's all depressurized, we are good to go. So out of the box, the 191 does chrono around 400 to about 430 FPS on 0.2 gram BBs. However, the consistency was quite bad as it would fluctuate between 30 to 40 FPS. Now, before I could take it to a field, I consulted E&L on Instagram. and someone from Moss Manufacturing USA suggested I could make a few modifications to improve the consistency. So firstly, they recommended to cut down the nozzle return spring on the front. So apparently it was designed too long and caused issues with the bolts bouncing. So with the original nozzle spring, you can see it's quite long and protruded out from the nozzle itself. One of the things we saw was that the bolt was bouncing inconsistently and would often leave a gap with the chamber itself. So this caused a lot of muzzle velocity inconsistencies. And one of the things that E&L recommended was to cut it down so that it would be flush with the nozzle itself. So that improved the muzzle velocities by about 30 to 40 FPS because it's sealing much better now. So we're just going to show you the difference in length. So it's just a little bit off that nozzle spring. So one of the things we also did notice after cutting it is on fully automatic fire, our muzzle velocity itself wasn't very consistent. So I'm not quite sure if it's due to the feeding of the BBs at higher rate of fire. It could mostly be due with the spring, but we'll test it at a later date as well. Secondly, the nozzle wasn't long enough, so it couldn't really seal with the chamber either. They actually recommended to add some rubber pieces on the steel washer on the back of the nozzle so it would push it slightly forward. Now the problem with every change that I did to the system, it increased its muzzle velocity significantly. So the first, with the change on the nozzle spring, actually raised it to about 460 to 470 on twos. And when we added the rubber pieces, it basically raised it to about 520 to 530. So I didn't even bother to check it for jewel creeps because at this point, the muzzle velocities well exceeded basically any club that I could attend to in New Zealand. So as a last resort to make it more gameable, I experimentally added a thin O-ring on the back of the secondary nozzle, and this basically lowered its FPS to about 420 to 430 FPS, while improving its consistency within 15 FPS of deviations. In the end, I decided to sell for this in order to be able to play with it for a game. So with all the changes, you could see how much air leak there was and how inefficient the platform was out of the box. All that wasted air could have been directed to a recoiling mass to push a heavy bolt carrier system, or even the inclusion of a heavy short stroke piston. So wouldn't that be the whole point of running a paintball system that's basically outputting at 600 to 800 psi? So even an Airsoft HPA system that outputs at a maximum of 160 to 180 could be pushing much more mass and basically be able to run it efficiently. Now, in relation to the inefficiency of the gas system, we did see this reflect on the use of 33 grams CO2 canisters. So with one canister, we could barely finish the whole mag with 120 rounds. So it only emptied about 90 to about 100 rounds with fully automatic fire as well. So the canisters itself are quite expensive in New Zealand. They cost about 30 New Zealand dollars, which is roughly about 17 US dollars. So, we have tried it once, so we won't be doing it again for the purpose of the video, but I hope you can take my word for it. But it just shows how inefficient the system is. So we're just going to test the accuracy at an A4 paper that's about 30 meters away. We'll be using 0.36 gram BBs for this test. Okay, so here are the results at about 30 meters with 0.36 grams. And you know, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Don't see anything else. So not very spectacular for the amount of shots we're doing. So the results at about 30 meters is quite subpar. We did manage to hit the paper a few times, but we had a lot of misses on the foam itself. So this somewhat reflects the inconsistency that we're getting on the chronograph. So the muzzle readings are all over the place, which, you know, could contribute to this inaccuracy. So I guess the real question is, how skirmishable is the 191? So last weekend I took it down to Bastion, a local club down in South End, Oakland, just to trial it out and have fun while we're at it. So while we're there, we were using a carbon fiber tank of 88 CI, and we're running its stock regulator with a generic HPA line. During the day, we were using 0.36 gram BBs. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I'll make you.
It's going pretty flat, it's pretty good.
I just find it strange.
They're going all the way flat, it's pretty dope.
My one is underhopping, overhopping.
Yeah, but it's because of the nature of the gun though.
No, actually it's because yeah.
Oh, you reckon? Yeah. I think the game is starting now. One. Yep, game start.
It's so he literally pictured.
Take that. We should move now, SB there. Fuck! Hit! Fuck! What's too hot? Oh, that's alright. Yeah, that's fine. So they say we're going to the beach.
Oh, that'll be nicer.
I don't have my underwear. My swimsuit.
The VIPs are real people.
No, I know. I only find out before the game ends.
I just found out. Yeah. So they've got a stuffed bunny on it. Yeah, I saw.
I can try there actually. Oh yeah. 1 o'clock. Hit! GG William. There was a guy. There was a guy over there. Probably 9 o'clock. We could go back that way. You sure? I know I saw it. Hit! Stay here, I'll be back. Good. We gotta scoop.
Sorry. He's talking to a buddy. There's another guy there. There's someone coming. Got him. Let's go around. Let's go around. Move. Move, hit that. He got me on the head.
I only have one left. I died so many times. And one of them is because of fucking William, because he kept talking to me. He's exposing me. Okay, back in. Okay. I think they might all be towards that side now though. Yeah, okay.
hit. Did I not hit you? Huh? Oh.
Hit the tree, yeah.
Fair enough, fair enough. Now that we have the gameplay out of the way, you know, let's go into the pros and cons and the final verdict. So I'm just going to start off with the cons for good reasons that you see, you know, why very soon. So with the first con, the 191 is an extremely inefficient gas system. So the system itself was originally designed for paintball, and I believe it's not fully optimized for airsoft. I believe E&L had to rush the system in order to downsize the air volume significantly, as you know, standard paintball projectile weighs about 3 grams as opposed to airsoft BBs, which are about 9 to 10 times lighter. So number two, we did see a lot of inconsistent muzzle velocities, most probably due to the inefficient gas system. So we had various issues with air seals, and this reflects how the system was gaining significant air volumes when simple fixes were done to it. Now number three, there was an inadequate accuracy on paper at about 30 meters, so the BBs were not stable at all. Now number four, the system has really low recoil, despite operating at about 600 to 800 psi. So it's only pushing a 215 grams bolt carrier, which seems like a big waste to run such a high air pressure. It's definitely a missed opportunity to not include the attached short stroke piston, which definitely had a space for, to increase a heavier recoiling mass. Now number five, the system itself has really high muzzle velocities out of the box, and everything that I do to improve its air seal and consistency seems to raise it even more. Now it managed to reach up to 2.6 joules at one point, rendering it almost unusable at every single field in New Zealand. Now number six, the inner barrel and rubber hop-up bucking is actually proprietary, so it does not utilize a standard AG or GBB barrel or bucking. I don't understand why they would do this in 2024. The inner barrel also only reaches up to half of the outer barrel as well. Number seven, the muzzle device is actually part of the outer barrel and is non-removable. Why E&L? Number 8. Now, despite the 191 being a next-gen weapon system for the Chinese army, it was supposedly meant to be ambidextrous, but it was definitely not designed for left-handed shooters. So first off, the mag release itself. The extended tab only seems to be on the right side and not on the left. Now the bolt release, once again, is on the left side for right-handed shooters and isn't on the right itself for left-handed shooters. Now the two sling mounting points are only on the left side of the rifle, and there are none on the right. Now number 9, which is part of the whole ambidextrous thing, the charging handle on the bolt itself, it's part of the bolt, so that means it's reciprocating. So as the left-handed shooter, that would be coming back at your face. Number 10, the rear side itself is a rotary design, and it's absolutely awful. So the aperture on them are extremely small, and I did have a lot of difficulty looking through it and having a quicker acquisition. Now number 11, the magazines itself. So the magazines are fairly expensive. They retail for about 79 New Zealand dollars or 30 to 35 USD. And this is for an AG magazine. Now the construction itself, the polymer feels quite close to the cheap Arcturus mags that we had. And the hooking and locking tabs on the top are fully polymer. They're not metal or reinforced, let alone steel. Now number 12, due to the system's inefficient gas design, the 33 gram CO2 canisters, they can't last for more than one 120 round magazine. Now sometimes they only manage to get about 90 to 100 shots, and it's only good for training if you switch the mags to about 30 rounds. Now the worst part of this is those 33 gram canisters, they do cost about 30 New Zealand dollars, which is about 17 US dollars each. Now number 13, E&L did not provide any Picatinny rail pieces for the handguard itself, so they do have mounting points on the left, right and underside, So without these pieces, you won't be mounting any full grips or any flashlights. So the QBU M-LOK handguard from the real QBZ-191 does exist and is currently restricted for export, so it does cost up to about 6,000 RMB, which is equivalent to 1,400 New Zealand dollars or over 800 US dollars. So I guess we just gotta wait until E&L or some other aftermarket companies come up with this, or when they release the rail pieces, before we could mount anything of such. And I could go on with other things like its coating, its backplate, its markings, but you know, we'll be nitpicking at that point, so let's leave it at that, and that is the cons for the 191. So with the cons out of the way, let's get into the pros. So the first pro is, you know, the 191 is extremely sturdy and does feature a all steel construction. Everything that is meant to be steel is made of steel, and it's really impressive that they even did that with the internals. Now with the second pro, it's something quite impressive. This is something that has never been seen before in Airsoft. So out of the box, the 191 does feature a TAC coating for its bolt carrier group, which is basically a diamond-like carbon coating that provides super high hardness, ultra low friction, and an excellent wear protection. So this is only limited to the first 1,200 units produced by E&L. Now number three, the 191 does have a very simplistic mechanical operation. It does have very few parts, so you know, less parts, less things to go wrong. Now number four, the dual gas system provides an option for gamers and people in training alike. So you could either choose whether if you wanted to run a HPA rig with a line and a tank, or if you simply want to train with 30 rounds, you could get away with 33 grams CO2. Now number five, the 191 HPA system does run on a paintball rig system as opposed to an airsoft system, so it doesn't require a airsoft regulator or an airsoft line. So this means your initial setup is, you know, significantly lower in price, and you know, you could get away with running a cheaper paintball line as well as an aluminum tank, and basically have a whole setup just around 200 New Zealand dollars. Now, if you're anywhere else in the world, it could cost you know, around 100 USD, and you know, this also means that there's one less problem to deal with because, you know, for those who run airsoft HPA regulators would know how problematic they can get sometimes. Now, number six, as a gas blowback rifle, the best feeling is if you don't experience any cooldown on your gas blowback system. Now, since the system runs HPA, every shot feels extremely snappy and the kick is consistent all the time. And you know, I had a lot of fun just running with that consistency of that system. Now number seven, the hop-up system is quite impressive. So it was able to hop 0.36 gram BBs with ease, and you know, I was actually shooting out to about 60-70 meters. I have tried adjusting the hop-up, and I believe there's no issues with running 0.36 and heavier. Now number eight, despite the bad accuracy on paper itself, the replica performs extremely well in actual skirmishes. Now, you know, with 0.36 gram BBs, they were flying out past 60 meters like a laser beam. So the drop only came after. So this really surprised me, and is definitely one of the biggest pros that I can see with the 191. So number nine, last but not least, I believe this has got to be the biggest pro for me, and that is the value of the 191. So this model here retails for about 600 US dollars, which is about 1,200 New Zealand dollars locally. And this is quite impressive because you're getting a full steel construction system, you know, both externally and internally. It's fully ready for HPA out of the box, and you know, for that price range, I believe you know, everyone that, you know, have seen the systems would know that this is probably one of the cheapest ways to get into a HPA GBBR system. That somewhat overshadows or foreshadows all the cons that we've mentioned previously, because it is also a very skirmishable system. Alright, now for the final verdict on the T191, before I begin, I do have a little bit of a confession. So before this model was even released, I actually formed a biased opinion against it. Now, the two contributing factors were, firstly, pretty much every Chinese airsoft player around me kept talking about this gun and the real gun and the Chinese PLA. So it was pretty much a non-stop rambling and glorification of the 191, despite you know, it not being released. So that made me really hate the gun. And secondly, you know, I was a bit concerned about its durability, its performance, and its reliability, being a brand new system that E&L has developed. So you know, I almost canceled my pre-order on this model just because people kept talking about it, and I got somewhat sick of it. But I was quite curious to find out what the new system entails and you know, how it would perform. So we kind of kept it. So when I did receive this, I hated it even more. So I was going to sell it right after producing this particular review, and this was all due to the inconsistencies that we had with the inefficient gas system, with the muzzle readings on the chronograph, and basically its accuracy on paper as well. Now this, however, all changed when I took it down on the, onto the field for the first Airsoft game, and you know, I was immediately blown away by its performance and you know, how straight the projectile flew at about 60 to 70 meters. So the E&L 191, it is a really inefficient system. It doesn't work too well on paper, on chronograph, and to be honest, it is you know, quite badly designed, if I may say. It's not fully ambidextrous, not really left-hand friendly, but to be honest, it is the first of its kind. So you know, this features a never seen before HPA system that's ready out of the box. The gun itself is made of full steel construction. It is very skirmishable, and every single shot is very consistent. It feels great. It gives you a nice clank, and on fully automatic, it does feel quite fun. All right, so at this price point, at about 600 USD, it is a steal. And to be honest, with all these in mind, it really changed my opinion on the E&L 191. And overall, I think this is a great platform, especially for those who are wanting to get into the HPA sort of system. The bonus for me is that it is a GBBR, it is a gas blowback that uses 120 rounds. And you know, you don't need to buy an airsoft regulator that could cost about 300 to 400 New Zealand dollars, which is quite a significant cost for most players. So overall, you know, I am loving it more and more. I can't complain about the 191. And of course, Loki here has got to block half of the gun. But you know, I hope you guys enjoy this review, and if you have any questions, make sure you leave a comment and we'll get back to you. But once again, thank you for watching. This is Loki, that is Thunder Spear, this is Nonocat. We'll see you in the next video. Good evening everyone, and welcome back to another Nonocat review. This is the E&L T191 dual powered system gas blowback rifle. So the T199 so the
Creating
Keep going, keep going.
That's beautiful.
Pull it down.
Oh, it's good.
Good fun? So here we have the 10th year anniversary Loki edition. You haven't been here for a while for a review. So come back. So we're now reviewing the grown-up version of Loki. Used to be a tiny little cat, now he's big and fat and strong. Ouch. Okay. Now number 4, the low recoil system for our system. Alright, so hope you guys enjoy. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. Now number 5, the system itself has really high, extremely inefficient. As we mentioned, it's number 6. That was number 6. So, you know, that's, how did I fuck this up? Just by reading paper.
You're holding the paper, right?
If I'm missing anything, we'll just, you know, add it tomorrow.